Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Welcome to another wonderful Monday here as we crank up the second week of January in 2024.
Yes, and a wild week I think we have ahead of us. We are, of course, a week out from the Iowa caucus, which is the first in the 2024 election cycle.
Yeah.
Trump's still in the lead. Ron DeSantis is hoping his ground game has paid off in Iowa. And they did kick out, him and Nikki Haley kicked out a reporter, Laura Loomer, from both of their events over the weekend, which was interesting. So.
Like to hear about that. Bad weather coming our way, by the way, too. All over about 2/3 of the country is going to be hit. There's a nor'easter up there in the northeast, appropriately enough, and there'll be a lot of snow, as they say. It's literally going to turn to rain. We're going to get a lot of rain here. They're talking about tornadoes along the Gulf Coast. So things are not looking good, and wait for the climate change people to come out of the woodwork and tell you how you need to start eating artificial meat.
Yeah, definitely never going to sell me on that.
And you know what the latest is from the environmentalists on why we're having so much climate change? Our indoor plants.
Oh.
Yeah, your indoor plants are causing.
Can you explain that to me, Bill?
No.
Okay.
But but you don't have to have an explanation for these left-wing loons. They just make up stuff.
I know, but I'm getting to the point where I'm like, define this, because I don't think our definitions are the same.
No, they're not. Also, we're talking to Ben Watson as the Georgia Legislative 2024
Yes, and everyone's up for re-election this year, which is kind of exciting here in Georgia. We will see if that 94% incumbency rate continues to dominate here in Georgia. I do think that it's good when we have new blood in there. Colton Moore has been a breath of fresh air in the Republican Party. He is 30 years old. He's very young, but he's been making waves up there at the Capitol in the last couple of years. So I'm excited to see what kind of happens this session.
I am too.
And this election season. So.
And I'm anxious to see who the Atlanta Falcons are going to pick as their new head coach, because they fired Fred Smith yesterday, the son of the founder of FedEx, who has gone 3 seasons, 7-10. So,
that's not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Three losing seasons in a row.
Do we know why he was fired for the losing season?
Well, 3 losing seasons in a row does it.
Okay.
Usually. That's pretty much it. Lost to the New Orleans Saints, our arch rival, yesterday. And he went out and gave the Saints coach a piece of his mind, because it was late in the game and the Saints were winning overwhelmingly, and decided to score another touchdown rather than just take a knee at the end. And he refused to shake the coach's hand. He just said something naughty to him that we probably can't repeat, and walked off.
Well, so, I mean, here's the thing: if you play to win, and I don't know, I play to win big. I'm not going to just.
Well, sometimes rubbing salt in a wound is not maybe not the best way in sportsmanship. Take a knee, okay? If you're up 38-14 and you want to score another touchdown with 3 seconds to play or something, that's pretty ridiculous. Yeah.
But also that's the other thing. Like it's the stats too that for the players. So it's not just So you just never know. Here's the thing: you go to play the game, you play harder. You play hard, and if you're worried about having a blowout, don't let them get the lead in the first place.
Most of them struggling to live on 17 or 18 million a year.
Yeah, I'm. Here's the thing: like they're so lucky that they get to do something like that for a living.
Exactly.
That I think we should always be gracious, but. That's just my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see who the coach is.
Me too. I'll apply for the job, because hell, I can take them to 7-10 for 3 years too, and you can give me the golden parachute.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So I'll apply for the job.
Okay, well, we'll keep you guys posted if Bill gets the job.
Yeah, thank you.
As head coach for the Falcons. And well, like we said, it's the opening of the Gold Dome today. We have our legislators headed in this morning. I do know we had Sam's and Field on last week, and from Georgians for Truth, and they were headed up to the Capitol today for a rally and to speak with some of our legislators. So we'll see how that's going. But this is kind of a little indication of what's going to be happening up at the Gold Dome and what kind of legislation we can expect this cycle.
Well, in just hours from now, the state capitol is going to be busy again because our lawmakers are going to gather for the first day of the new legislative session.
Back to work for lawmakers. Atlanta News First reporter Rebecca Schramm live at the Capitol building. So, Rebecca, those lawmakers have a lot of work to do, some unfinished business.
Yep, you're right, Rick and Lana. Good morning to you. This is the second year of the two-year cycle, so any bills that didn't make it through last year are still sitting in the hopper. It also means that every state legislator is up for re-election. So let's take a look at some of the bills that they'll be diving into as they try to score some points with voters. With the Israel-Hamas war now raging, they'll reconsider a bill that would allow prosecutors to tack on anti-Semitism charges to crimes committed against Jewish people or places. They'll also take another look at sports betting, which was revived at the last minute last year but didn't make it through. And they'll reconsider a school voucher program that would give parents of students in the lowest performing districts vouchers for private or homeschooling. They'll have plenty of new bills to consider too, including a controversial proposal by Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones that would give teachers stipends to take firearms training so they can have access to their guns in the classroom. But looming large over all of this will be the upcoming presidential primary and the ongoing historic prosecution of former President Donald Trump.
We know that he's getting charged, he's being indicted. That doesn't take away anything from Republican excitement for him. But the polling indicates that a conviction would change some people's minds. And again, if it's a close election, that could tip the balance in favor of the Democrats.
Georgia's 2024 legislative session will gavel in at 10 o'clock this morning. We will keep you informed of what happens here at the Capitol all session long. Live in downtown Atlanta, Rebecca Schramm, Atlanta News First.
And we'll keep you informed too.
Yes, and it'll be an interesting session with all of the legislators up for re-election. And depending on how many of them have challengers, it may keep them a little bit more conservative on the Republican side and maybe a little bit more liberal on the Democrat side. So we shall see how that impacts this legislative session.
And I'll give a shout out to Georgia Public Television. I wish South Carolina would do this and other states would do it as well. They do a great wrap up of the legislative session every evening, usually for a half an hour, sometimes an hour, depending on what's going on. But starts at 7 o'clock on Georgia Public Television every night during the legislative session, and they do a great job covering all that. And it's a good way to stay in touch and find out what these bills are, what was said in the wells, what was the opposition, the people who were in favor, some of the people on the street. It's a really good show. It really is.
Yeah, and if you're looking to stay informed during this legislative session for the elected officials in this area, we will be sending out how they're voting on what bills. So go to the Chatham County GOP website and sign up for our updates. It's chathamcountygop.org.
chathamcountygop.org. So
yes.
Check it out. And
yes. And
stay in touch.
And of course, we'll be talking about it as well. Also, the Freedom Caucus, they're going to be sending out updates as well for Georgia. So go on their website and sign up for that. There's plenty of ways to stay informed where you're not having to do all of this deep diving that we see. So we'll do it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's our job.
Yes. And I don't know, Bill. I'm interested to see how this legislative session goes because there's a lot of there's so much chaos going on. One of the bills that I'm most interested in is one being presented by Colton Moore, and it's to address the RICO charges. So how you can charge people with racketeering based off of politics. So I'm really interested to see how that bill goes, and because he is a Republican, but he is not part of the Republican caucus because they kicked him out last year. It'll be interesting to see if they take this up in committees or not, but I do think applied pressure would be helpful on this specific bill, just because I do think that it would help with the situation we see going on in Fulton County with Trump and the other defendants being prosecuted by that out-of-control DA.
Okay.
So
yeah, we've got to start showing some back.
And Brian Hood's with us this morning, and he says, "Morning, Bill from Garden City."
Oh, well, good morning.
So there you
Howdy.
go.
Glad to have you aboard.
Yes.
Tell all your friends. Share it. Facebook,
Yes.
Instagram, whatever.
Rumble,
whatever's new,
YouTube.
yeah, all those people. Yeah.
Yes. Twitch.
Blizzard Spit.
Yes. Twitter. We're on all of them.
Yeah, there you go.
So check us out there. And you were able to talk with Scott Rifen last week, who is the person that currently holds the time slot for the radio show you used to be on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, he was addressing the Chatham Republican Women's Club last week here at the Savannah Inn Country Club, and we talked about what his perspectives were for the coming year, and also what he sees coming up in the future, and the long and the short of his message to those ladies last Wednesday. Well, Scott, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
What was the long and short of the message here to the Republican women today?
The long and short of the message is that we have to control the stories that we tell each other and tell ourselves and tell our children, because that's the foundation of what we wind up believing, what people tell us. And when you go to church on Sunday, you're listening to the pastor from the pulpit. He's telling you stories. You sit around the dinner table, you're sharing stories. Where did those stories come from? It's all the stories we tell each other are kind of what we believe. There are three big mechanisms for doing that in our culture, and that is journalism, entertainment, and education. And in all three of those instances, the left have taken it over in big fashion. We've got to take those institutions back.
Sometimes the pulpit, too.
Sometimes, nowadays, increasingly so, yes.
I know of pastors that don't believe in the virgin birth, and then there goes the Christian religion.
Well, yeah, and there's a documentary coming out that Rob Reiner produced where he's gotten the full cooperation of some of these Christianity Today guys where they attack evangelicals. Why are you attacking evangelicals? Even if you have a difference of opinion with an evangelical, I guarantee you have more in common with them than you have against them. You have more in common with them than you do with Rob Reiner.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, you mentioned also the fourth leg of the stool being the social media.
Yeah.
And that we're attacked from all sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw it with Hunter Biden's laptop, which clearly made a difference in a very close presidential election, where we were told by 51 people that we were supposed to trust, that we've been told for years we trust, that whole thing was misinformation. It was from Russia. But we have a history of setting up authority figures that maybe abuse that the powers that they have there. I mentioned during the talk that there were some girls that believed something that was said in class that was patently untrue. And the reason why was because the woman who told him's first name was Doctor.
Right.
I don't know about you, but when I went off to college for the first time, everybody whose first name was Doctor, they had to know what they were talking about, and they could never be wrong.
Exactly.
Well, they were wrong a lot, a lot.
Well, I was a little more conservative at Ole Miss when I was there, but that's changed a lot too.
I'm sure.
Well, and I like the fact that you challenge people. You have to get involved in these businesses.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just sit around and say, well, I wish they do this, that, or the other.
Yeah. Well, and as conservatives, I think sometimes we tend to isolate ourselves too much.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to go, that's the kooky left guys. We're going to be over here with our guys and not mix with them. But the problem is, if they're sitting there in control of those institutions and we don't mix with them, then we're not getting into those institutions, and they're vital.
Yeah, for sure. Going down the road here, you look at the upcoming year. A lot of us say that it's this election or nothing. I mean, we're kind of on the precipice here, or whether or not we're going to.
I don't know. I hear that a lot, but I'm going to push back a little bit just because, September before last, I got to take a trip to Washington, D.C., and one of the things I had to make sure I did in the free time that I had was to go down to the archives and see the documents and that Constitution. And I'm going to tell you something. We can't take a picture of it. You can't take a picture of the Constitution. They won't let you.
Wow, I didn't know that.
No, they will not allow you to, and the reason is because the flash will damage it, and you go, well, but my camera, I don't need a flash, and they go, but it could go off, so we're not taking any chances, no pictures. As brittle as it seems, that Constitution is one of the strongest documents that's ever been forged by man. And I think things are bad. Things can be bad. Things can get bad. I just keep believing in that Constitution. It's going to hold. It's got to hold.
Good. Any other messages you want to pass on to America?
No, but I will say this. We are in an election year. Keep that in mind. Be wary, and make sure that you vote and the 15 other people that may or may not live in your house also vote. If they do it, we can do it.
God bless.
Well, he had a good message. I was actually able to be there as well, and I thought he's actually pretty funny too.
Oh, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He really is. Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting to consider us being more mixed into things. I do think that it's important that we go and take over institutions, and I think that that's how we're able to take back power. I think that that's the thing that we don't think about as conservatives. We think we don't think about, okay, the seats of power are what we have to win. And we're so busy fighting amongst each other that we don't ever have those successes that we need in order to get back in control of institutions as well as people that are able to make these laws that make a difference.
Well, not only that, but you have to go into what we call the deep state. You know, these unelected run their businesses. And if they think they can wave some sort of a magic wand and suddenly you can get a bunch of people driving electric cars and it won't cost them anything because electricity is free.
Well, I think the other thing is you have to also consider that how much regulation costs businesses. So I believe I saw some crazy stat. I think it was $22 million in 2023 just because of regulation. It cost business owners. That's insane.
Yeah. And that adds to and remember, businesses don't pay taxes. You pay taxes. Businesses, for the most part, pass those taxes along in the form of higher prices. Oh, you're happy that McDonald's had to pay out $16 million to some idiot that spilled coffee in their lap and was upset because they got burned by it. Coffee's supposed to be hot. Thank you very much. You'd complain if it was cold, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But what happens? All of a sudden, the next week, the price of the Big Mac went from $5.50 to $5.80. You pay for that $16 million that they were handing out to this idiot.
We always do. We always pick up the tab. And Steve Stanton Sr. says, keep your eyes on Colton Moore this legislative session. I think he will make a difference. I do agree. He'll at least make some waves, if nothing else. And then Steve Stanton Sr. also says, good guy works for a woke crap station. But here's the thing. The woke crap station pays Scott Rifen to talk about conservative things, which is kind of a win.
Yeah.
So, and then looks like we are having some sound issues. Hopefully we have fixed that, but I'm not sure why we would be having sound issues.
I'm not either. But so maybe check your set, check the wiggle a wire or something, see what happens.
Yes. Well, when we get back, we're going to be sitting down with Ben Watson, our current state senator here in District 1, and he covers Bryan, Liberty, and Chatham. So it's just portions of each of those counties. So you'll be talking to him when we get back.
Yep, that's on the way. Stay here, stay ready.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
That Florida and Alabama vote on hand-marked paper ballots. In fact, 70% of America vote on hand-marked paper ballots. One person, one vote. If you feel like Georgians should vote, one person, one vote on hand-marked paper ballots, be at the state capitol, the Gold Dome, welcome legislators and demand we change the way we vote before the 24 elections.
Be there January 8th, 10 a.m. Georgia State Capitol, Liberty Plaza. For more information, go to georgiansfortruth.org.
A lethal dose is in here. who gets it, I won't know.
It's scary that it can be put into anything and we can't even see it or notice it.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit. Welcome back to Get Real America. Glad to have you aboard, and an honor and a pleasure to have good friend Dr. Ben Watson, who is not only represented as well in the medical profession, but also up in Atlanta. You've been up there for how long, getting ready to go into the next legislative session for 2024, Ben?
We are. So I was first elected to the State House in 2010, got sworn in 2011. I was in the House for 4 years, and then Buddy Carter ran for Congress, and I moved over to the Senate at that time. So as of this year, I will have been in the state Senate now for 10 years.
Well, what do you expect for this legislative session here that's underway?
Well, you know, it is a 2-year session, so we'll be actually finishing up from last year, and there'll be new legislation introduced. And the appropriations is always huge. We've been very conservative in the state of Georgia in that we have from an appropriation standpoint, and listen, from a legislative standpoint, we've been conservative too. But from an appropriation standpoint, we have been conservative and not advanced government, and I think that's important. But having said that, we're going to have close to, depending on which way you look at it, somewhere between $10 and $16 billion budget excess. Now, we've already funded the rainy day fund, and that's capped at 10% of the budget, which is $3.3 billion. It's a $33 billion budget is where we are. And most of that revenue comes from, you taxpayers. The taxpayers from an income tax and sales tax. So our goal this year, and listen, Governor Kemp is already on top of it, and he's been on top of it now for quite some time. I'm not one of those that likes to, the Senate's better than the House, but the Senate has led on reducing our burden when it comes to income tax. The income tax, as you know, we passed several years ago. Again, I hate to say it, but Senate led in that we did cap this. We put it to the voters, and it is a constitutional amendment that the income tax will not go over 6%, period. Now, what we did is that since then, we have reduced the income tax legislatively. We've actually done this over 10 years, and it will be down further each year that we meet the goals. Certainly, we don't want to cripple the state, and certainly the role of the government is our infrastructure. It's very important for us to do roads and bridges, to do wastewater treatment facilities and low interest rate loans to the counties and so forth. And it's very important for us to continue to do that. But on the other hand, it is the taxpayers' money, and from an income tax standpoint, the rate is going to go down further. That's going to be part of that $16 billion budget excess. So I think the appropriations, listen, it is almost always where things happen. And I'm very blessed. I was just in 4 years in the House, I was on the Appropriations Committee. They didn't tell me that when I came over to the Senate, I don't have to start over in seniority. Didn't get any credit for being in the House, but that's okay. Yeah. I was going, goodness gracious, I got a little experience, nothing. Yeah. So but I have been there, and I was on appropriations within 2 years. My expertise, as you alluded to earlier, is in healthcare. So my section of the budget actually is 27% of that $33 billion. And that's the Senate section relating to healthcare in the state of Georgia. So A lot of that is formula driven. There's no doubt about that. From a Medicaid, age blind and disabled, and our Medicaid expansion in an appropriate fashion that Governor Kemp led on. But I think that's important. And I certainly weigh in on other aspects relating to the budget. I'm also on the economic development and tourism portion of the budget. So it's been fun. So appropriations, I think, is going to be number one.
I can understand that. There's some brouhaha about things going on down at the Okefenokee Swamp. Does that fall in your purview as well, about this mining of whatever this company's trying to do? They say won't damage the swamp, and others say it will, or...
Right. It's a complicated issue, and I will tell you, I got to give credit to my wife, Bernice. I got to give the shout out to Bernice in that she actually led a garden club group down to the Okefenokee Swamp. They spent about 3 days there touring that and understanding it. I have a map in my office that she generated, so I understand the issue a lot. And listen, that's what you elect us for. We're elected. It is a democratic republic, right? You elect us to make decisions for you and vote for you. Let me digress a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
That is now in front of the EPD in the state of Georgia. So that's the Environmental Protection Division in the state. And the ruling will be coming from them at some time, and hopefully in the near future, whether or not they'll even actually be able to do that. So if that does pass or does not pass, I think that the legislature certainly will react one way or the other. Listen, that is an area that is produced by the trail ridge that was left over from tens of thousands of years ago when the beach, the ocean actually came up there, and that was a huge sand dune. It's about 100 feet high, and that's actually why we have the Okefenokee Swamp. So really important for us to protect that old, thousands of year old sand dune. And that's where they're talking about drilling for minerals that, they're saying these are precious minerals used in a lot of things, but I will tell you they're not used for anything that I can see, like the titanium. That's not titanium that we use in the batteries. That's titanium that's used in other things. And I admit those things are certainly precious, and it is a private property rights issue. I get that. But it's also important to protect our environment from that standpoint. It's important to protect the Okefenokee Swamp. We need to make sure that nothing happens to that. So we'll see. My thoughts are we'll see how the EPD rules. We'll see if we need to enact legislation to tighten that up, or will someone come from the outside and buy that area, take it out of the hands and put it into a protected trust. So I think there are a lot of options related to that. Did that answer your question,
sir.
Bill?
Yeah, because
Probably.
I'm really on the periphery of this as well, so I need to do a little more research on it myself.
Yeah.
We're talking with Dr. Ben Watson, state senator and running for re-election here, and of course we're going into the next session here. But you're going to be primaried for the first time, I believe. Beth Mangione has announced that she is throwing her hat into the ring and is challenging you. I don't think you've ever had a challenger within the party, as far as I know. What are your thoughts here?
No, of course, when I ran for the open seat, Burke Day was in the House. He was there for, I think, 17 years, 18 years.
Did a great job
somewhere
for
there.
us.
He did. Bert was a great guy, and there were three of us who threw our hat in the ring for that open seat. Listen, when I did that first poll back 14 years ago, my name recognition was pretty small at the time. Of those three, I was not at the top of the list. I was at the bottom of the list. But by the end of the time, I worked hard, went door to door. I did a lot of fundraising. I did a lot of meeting and greeting issues, and I came out without a runoff, 64%, if I remember correctly. So yes, I haven't been had any opposition since then. I have, by being in the Senate and 195,000 of us that I represent is a little bit more higher profile than some. Certainly not as much as a congressman, but the aspect of not having opposition from a Democratic standpoint, I've had opposition at least for the past 6 years, if I remember correctly. So I'll have Republican opposition. I'm going to work hard, and I will not be able to raise money, in session, January, February, and March, will not be able to raise money.
Sure.
So that is a disadvantage of an incumbent, but I'm going to have a good showing when it comes to how much money I have raised. I've been working hard to do that, and I'm going to continue to be your state senator for the next year, and I will continue to work hard while I'm in the legislature, for our constituents and, locally and for the state and for what we do for the big picture from being a state senator. I'm going to continue to do that, and qualifying is March. We'll see if she qualifies. I certainly am going to qualify. I am going to run, and we'll see what happens. I think it's May 21st, which is the election, and early voting starts usually about 3 weeks ahead of that. So it's going to be a tight election, if you think about that, because we're generally not out until around April 1 or so. And if the election is May 21st, 3 weeks early, so it's going to be really tight there from that standpoint.
Ben, one of the most controversial subjects of our age here seems to be this transgenderism and this transgender surgery and everything else. I know you're not in favor of that, but at the same time, we're hearing so much about it. We have too many teachers now or other people that are telling these kids that they were misgendered when they came out of the womb, for God's sake. And I know you're against that, but do we understand that you said that puberty blockers are okay? You're okay with puberty blockers?
So let's take it back. Okay. There were several bills introduced last session in the House and in the Senate. None of them were moving, period. One of the bills, or actually more than one of the bills, was assigned to my committee. I'm chair of Health and Human Services. Cardin Summers and I and several others worked on that bill and got it to a point where it could pass. And we took testimony, both sides, multiple different angles, and we got that bill passed out of the Senate through rules, through the Senate, and I continued to help Cardin when it got into the House, and we got it passed there. Nothing else was moving, period. Let me be real clear on that. I feel very strongly that our children should not be transitioned or operated on or anything like that relating to transgender aspects. They're just too young. I mean, listen, our frontal lobes are not matured until they're about 25 or 26 years old. How can you expect a child to make a decision that will be life-altering? These surgeries are life-altering. There's no doubt about that. We did lots of research when it came to, the pediatric endocrinologists, what they were doing, the pros and the cons related to that. The surgeons, the physicians, primary care physicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, and so forth. The puberty blockers are used now for blocking puberty, i.e. examples are like with autism, children, boys mostly, who become aggressive with their parents and hit their parents and become violent. Their puberty has been blocked by these puberty blockers. They're also used in older people in some cancers. But more importantly, when you look at the ones in the youngsters where it is used, the autistic male kids or children who have behavior issues that are low functioning and who are abusive to their parents, and it is a very challenging situation. So the puberty blockers are used, but we did carve that out so that it can be used as a pause. It is not deleterious to them, but we will probably revisit that and take that out of there if we can. But you got to remember, it was a challenge getting that bill done to begin with. Would not have happened if we had not seized that bill to begin with and made adjustments in it, because it came from a place that it needed a lot of adjustments to adapt it to Georgia laws. So we passed a really good bill. It has been upheld in the appeals, the federal appeals court. It probably will march to the Supreme Court. Other bills have not made it, have An injunction has been formed, so it's not being done in Georgia because of the bill that we did, and yet it is still being done in bills that were more restrictive, as you're alluding to. Yes, the puberty blockers do put a pause on it. You can stop it at 18. Puberty will go ahead and take place, and within a few months, maybe even weeks from that perspective, I think it's going to march up to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's going to take time, as you know. Things don't move fast when it comes to that. But we'll see. My goal is to, if we can get the puberty blockers out of there, I think that's the right decision. Is that keeping that bill alive in the state of Georgia? That may very well be.
One quick thing, final, just maybe on speculation.
Because that wasn't quick, was it?
Yeah. No. Well, it's such a big issue, and I know
it is.
I wanted to be a surgeon, and I would never, if they said to me, you can have $1 million in operation if you'll alter this kid. I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
You can stay.
I think, Bill, from a conservative standpoint, I think we're all there.
Yeah. One final thing, and probably more speculation than anything else, but Florida has no state income tax or property tax. Texas is
no.
What is it?
Florida has no state income tax. They have huge property tax.
Right. Okay.
Georgia has. We're reducing our income tax.
Okay.
We have no property tax.
Gotcha.
State property tax, none. Zilch.
Is it going to be? You think it's going to stay that way? And you're going to continue?
We put that in the Constitution too. Is that there will be no property taxes in the state of Georgia by Constitution. So it takes so it takes 2/3 to override that, and then has to be voted on again. So I don't see that happening, and I do see our income tax continuing to come down. If you look at the burden from a state standpoint, Georgia is at the top from a good state. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to beat Alaska, which gives money back when they have good years relating to the oil. But if you look at all the states around us, I understand income tax is one of the top things that you look at and I look at. But when it comes to total state burden, we're very low.
Well, Ben, I appreciate your time. Good luck in this session. We have the technology to Zoom or something like that, so we may be in touch with you during the session to see how things are going.
Yeah, listen, we got a lot of things that are going to be going on, not only tax reform, but tort reform is going to be going on. I feel real strongly about that.
Good.
The governor's weighed in on that. There are going to be a lot of issues, I think, that are important that affect us every day in everyday lives. If you look at your car insurance, I think everybody realizes the car insurance is out of control. So I think there's some things that we can do that will affect everybody.
All right, sir. Thanks for coming in. Good luck.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy
Appreciate
New
it.
Year. All right.
Thanks.
We'll be right back.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
That Florida and Alabama vote on hand-marked paper ballots. In fact, 70% of America vote on hand-marked paper ballots. One person, one vote. If you feel like Georgians should vote, one person, one vote on hand-marked paper ballots, be at the state capitol, the Gold Dome. Welcome legislators and demand we change the way we vote before the 24 elections.
Be there, January 8th, 10 a.m. Georgia State Capitol, Liberty Plaza. For more information, go to georgiansfortruth.org.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Monday, 8th day of January already.
Yes, and we're about a week out from the Iowa caucuses, which should keep things interesting this week.
Yeah, for sure.
And Steve Stanton Sr. says, did I hear our budget is $33 billion and we have $16 billion in excess?
You heard correctly.
You did. And then Mary McCann Highbreeder would like to know, Mr. Watson, what are you doing to ensure election integrity? I will let you know that I have had conversations with Ben. He is interested in some of the legislation in which to clear up some of the verbiage that allows for each county to determine how they administer their elections. I do believe that will be something that comes up this session. However, I don't know what's going to happen with the Dominion machines. We do have a court case here that is starting, I believe the bench trial is starting tomorrow.
I have a suggestion for the Dominion machines. Boat anchors.
That
Very great boat anchors.
Well, did you know that they're actually, they're actually owned by an equity firm?
Are they?
Dominion is. That's never a good thing.
Bless their hearts.
They're all about the money, so never a good thing.
Yeah. I think some palms got greased getting them too.
Yeah, they sure did. That's how it works. This is politics. I think we were just not paying attention, and now we are. So we'll see what happens this session, but I do know that they are looking at some election integrity stuff. There is, again, a group at the Capitol today really pushing on the paper ballots. I think that the continued applied pressure is a good thing. Not sure what the outcome of those will be, but that's why it's important that we all follow the session very closely and we see kind of what bills make it and which bills don't, and hopefully some of those will be election integrity bills.
For sure, yeah. And once again, Georgia Public Television, 7 o'clock every night during the session, has a recap of the day's activities, and you can keep up with it that way.
Yes, and, AOC, one of the youngest people in the Congress, also very sad because she's about my age, and sometimes I wonder if she even thinks before she speaks. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but
the thinking is the key word there in that sentence.
Yes, well, she decided that she was going to have a solution for this immigration crisis that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah.
Clip 16?
14.
So Mary McCann Highbreeder says curling versus Raffensperger starts tomorrow. Raffensperger has refused to testify. Yeah, we'll see if that holds up in court. I'm interested to see that as well. I don't know how you can refuse to testify when you were the one that decided that these machines were the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what you can do as far as AOC is concerned. The reason that we don't have maybe many shootings here at the Oglethorpe Mall is they've got a big sign that says "No firearms allowed."
Oh.
Now, if more places did that, that'd cut down on it.
Yeah, perhaps. And with that case going before the court tomorrow, the other thing that I'm curious about, Make sure you contact your legislators because Raffensperger is asking for another $27 million for these voting machines. So make sure that you talk to your legislators about that as well.
Yeah, but here's AOC's solution.
From all parts of the political spectrum, one of the biggest issues that we have when it comes to immigration is the fact that we have an undocumented population. Now, you can fix that by trying to build a wall, or you can fix that by trying to document people and create a path to citizenship. And we'll have folks that might say, look at these systems, you know, that our shelter system has weight and things like that. But one of the reasons that our public systems experience weight is because people don't have a documented and reliable path to work and sustain themselves, just like all of our ancestors did and our grandparents and great-grandparents.
You know, I don't know if she's a student of history or not, but those people came here to be Americans. They came here, they were sponsored, they had skills, they went to work for any kind of a job they could find. There was no minimum wage. They put their kids in the nearest public school, and you had to learn English.
Well, I think that that's the other thing. Like, yes, that solution seems very, very black and white, right, Bill?
They came here to be Americans. They didn't come here to start their own little country.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Them coming over the border now, we're creating a lot of problems. The other thing is they're becoming a liability for the taxpayer to pay for. And back in the day, guess what? You came to America, you figured it out. Someone was either paying for you and sponsoring you, or
there were no social programs.
Yeah.
You weren't given $5,000 to show up here, and given. By the way, there was a. Sean, I hope we can get this on maybe tomorrow, but there was I believe it's a New York congresswoman who is a Democrat, who is outraged at the fact that they were starting to tow cars away because they were causing some problems in one of these illegal migrant camps, and some of these people started coming out and saying, "That's my car." One guy even had his title in his hand. He had his title back with Title Max, I guess, and where did they get the cars? Where did they get the money for this?
Well, I would say the taxpayer is probably paying for it somehow.
I'm sure that you helped pick up the tab.
Well, and Swift Airlines, if you have some time on your hands today, maybe you should reach out to them and let them know that transporting all these illegals all over the country, shame on them. They are a private airline that is doing this. We're seeing the public airlines as well, but the pilots are saying they don't know who's on board the aircraft when
that isn't good.
Yeah. So here's my other question for you, Bill. So if you know something's illegal, your boss tells you to do it, the Biden administration is telling you to do it, do you do it? And when consequences...
Not if it's not constitutional.
So if you are someone that is helping distribute all of these immigrants across the country and allowing them to come in, should you be held accountable?
Yes.
So when good men do nothing, that's when we have all these problems.
Warning from history.
Well, Owen Schroyer, who was put in jail, he said that he had people that were coming up to him and said, "I really like what you're doing, man, but I got to do my job." That you have sold your soul to the devil. You know that something is wrong, and because you need your job, you're doing it anyways. It's not good. And I think that unfortunately the people that are continuing to take orders and allow this stuff to happen are the problem.
Yep, you can say that that's an illegal order, and I'm not going to follow it.
Yes, and Steve Stanton Sr. says supports all wars and amnesty, referring to AOC. She's an interesting one. She flip-flops all over the place. None of her logic makes sense, but...
That's because it's not logical.
Yes. Lizzie Warren, my great-grandfather came here in the 1870s with no safety net of social services. He brought a work ethic and a love of America.
Yep.
And then she also says, historically, I was only following the orders. Defense has not worked out well for perpetrators. Yeah, Germany comes to mind.
Yeah. You might want to go back and look at this. There was a movie, won an Academy Award called Judgment at Nuremberg. And you heard all of these Nazi, I was just following orders.
Well, and Steve Stanton Sr. is on the same page with you. He says reminiscent of the Nuremberg trials.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I also think that AOC saying that we should just, the problem is they're undocumented. So just document them.
Yeah.
Problem solved. Where are they going to live? Where are they going to work? And
the problem to our money problem, just print more money.
Yeah.
Why not?
They're good at creating problems for sure.
They are.
And
that didn't work out well in Nazi Germany either. You might want to check that out for those of you who have never read history. When they were printing money so fast, they didn't even print the back of it. They just printed the front. You just went to the store with a wheelbarrow full of this cash, or you get a loaf of bread.
It's crazy.
Check it out.
Well, I think that's why we're in this situation. But also, here's the other thing. There are so many things coming. If you listen to Ronald Reagan, so much of the stuff he was talking about then applies now. And yes, we're in a different circumstance. I think things have gotten a little crazier than we could ever imagine, especially with just how they're pushing, trans down our throat. They're pushing kids being able to be cats and stuff, like just weird stuff now. But we could have never imagined. But I do think that there's hope when you see that they were fighting the same battles. So I think it's just a matter of us standing up as Americans and saying enough is enough. I think that's why it's really important that people that say they don't get involved in politics, that you convince them otherwise. Start asking them questions. Well, what about this? Well, did you know that was a political decision? I think that trying to make your case to people, I think, is the only way we're going to get people to get on board with becoming educated and informed and starting to vote for people that actually will represent them. We also... We're seeing that how they've continued to demonize Trump. I mean, the headlines coming across like my phone this weekend about Trump, I'm just like, are you kidding me? And of course, a video was released to show you what 2025 is going to look like if Trump gets elected. Mm-hmm. Because here's the other thing, though. We've already experienced a Trump presidency. Now they're trying to make it seem like it's going to be really, really scary when the current presidency we're living through is way worse.
Yeah.
I love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. As my first order of business, I hereby declare martial law.
Citizens of the new America, here are today's announcements. Supreme Leader Donald Trump proclaims the 4th of July will no longer be celebrated as Independence Day. In honor of our 2021 Patriots, January 6th will now be recognized as our great nation's birthday. All citizens are required to participate in quadrant festivities. Failure to do so will be met with harsh punishment and immediate incarceration in your local detention camp.
I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk.
Effective immediately, all children are now considered spiritual soldiers of MAGA. Regardless of rape, incest, or health of the woman, abortion is now illegal. Anyone caught providing or receiving an abortion will be charged with murder.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion?
There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
Due to previous liberal indoctrination, all schools are hereby closed. All citizens must participate in their quadrant's book elimination celebration festivities. Failure to do so will be met with harsh punishment and immediate incarceration in your local detention camp. All migrants, refugees, and dreamers are now considered enemies of the new America and will be rounded up, incarcerated, and deported immediately.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. We will root out the radical left thugs that live like vermin. Vermin.
Your curfew and freedom to travel will be determined by your quadrant's Vermin Surveillance System score. The Vermin Surveillance System has proven to be invaluable in detecting and squashing liberal uprisings. All citizens must continue to report any progressive or liberal activity. Failure to do so will be met with harsh punishment and immediate incarceration at your local detention camp. Your unwavering loyalty to Supreme Leader Donald Trump is mandatory and essential in keeping the new America great forever.
And this 2 days after Ashley Babbitt Day.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing is that felt very Hunger Games to me. I think that that's reminiscent for a lot of people that are in my age group. I think that this is targeted at younger people, but
that may be the most despicable thing I've seen since the daisy picking girl in 1964 from the Democratans when they were claiming that if you voted for Barry Goldwater, that the nuclear holocaust was just a day after tomorrow.
Well, and here's the thing. We've already lived through one Trump presidency.
Yeah.
And the compare and contrast of how our lives were when Trump was president versus Biden is vastly different. And and I think people thought if I vote for Biden, we're going to have this normalcy return. And it's gotten so much.
Yeah, the great uniter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great divider.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary McCann Hybrider says, unbelievable. The sad truth is many global Americans will actually believe this.
Yeah.
Wake up, America. Yes, it is. It's really sad to see that they're able to manipulate people. And I'll tell you, the fact that I see so many people watching CNN and MSNBC still is just like disheartening. There's so many other better news sources. There's also
Truth.
Yes. Well, Truth is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And did you happen to catch Biden's speech this weekend?
Oh, yeah. I made sure that I hadn't eaten anything recently when I watched.
Yeah.
The
great uniter.
This is coming from a president who called, when he visited cemeteries, called dead soldiers suckers and losers. Remember that? Sometimes I'm really happy the Irish in me can't be seen. It was right around the time I was at Bo's grave, Tommy. How dare he? Who in God's name does he think he is? With former aides, Trump plans to invoke the Insurrection Act, which would allow him to deploy, which is not allowed to do in ordinary circumstances, allow him to deploy U.S. military forces on the streets of America. He said it. He calls those who oppose him vermin. He talks about the blood of America as being poisoned, echoing the same exact language used in Nazi Germany. He proudly posts on social media the words that best describe his 2024 campaign, quote, revenge, quote, power, and quote, dictatorship. There's no confusion about who Trump is, what he intends to do.
It's amazing that they accuse Trump of what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
And I think if he wins a second presidency, it will get worse.
Everything that you just saw and that hideous piece of crap from 11 Films, whoever they are, I understand Sony owns about half of it.
Sony owns a majority of that company as of 2020.
Bless their heart. So much for me buying Sony equipment anymore. But here's the despicable thing that we need to remember is that, once again, as Brittany said, they're accusing you of what they're doing, but we still have these people. There's going to be a January 6th rally, I understand, from people that are trying to get these folks who have been in jail now for 3 years, have never seen their family, haven't seen an attorney, and are still in these prisons that rival Andersonville.
Yeah, and the thing that really bothers me about Biden is that, I mean, he seems so angry and so hateful, and he demonizes half of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we have seen this from a president before. You're a little bit older than me, but I've never seen it.
No. As I said, I'm so old. When I was born, the Dead Sea was only sick. So I go back to the second, and I wasn't old enough to vote. I was just a kid, but I was about 8 or 10 years old when President Eisenhower was running for re-election. And I never saw him make any statements like this, or Kennedy, or Johnson, even though I despised Johnson, what a despicable person he was. But from right on down the line, even the Dalai Lama Didn't, he may have hated America and hates America, but at the same time, he didn't make any radical speeches of that nature,
Divisive.
of divisive speeches. A lot of it racial, of course, but he always sided with the thugs over any police matters. If some black kid or black guy got shot or hit or wounded, or he always sided with the other side, not with the cops. But I never saw anything like this.
And Mary McCann Hybrider says liar in chief, and Steve Stanton Sr. says what a hateful, evil man. I agree with that.
Yes.
Never seen anything like it. The numbers, however, are staggering when it comes to what we've allowed to come over the border. I think we have a graphic we can put up, but 12 million in the country in the last 3 years. They predict that this will be the number, 12 million, by the end of his presidency. You can see that Obama, I mean, not much difference between Obama and Trump. So at least he was following the law. Now Biden's in no law and order, no border at all. And
yet they say that they're worried about it. They're doing everything they can to control it. Yeah, and Mayorkas is going to be down there today.
Oh, that's exciting.
He's going to be in Eagle Pass, Texas. And you had mentioned Ronald Reagan. Go back and listen to his speeches and how erudite they were. I have another one for you, and it's Dr. Kenneth McFarland, McFarland. Dr. Kenneth McFarland, Dean of American Speakers. Just Google it and go to that website. There are about 10 or 12 of his speeches that are on there in full that were made in the late 50s, early 60s, up in the mid 60s, into the 70s. And just take out the political names of that era and put in the names of today's era, and the speech could have been made yesterday. One of the ones I want you to pay particular attention to is, are we raising the red flag over ourselves?
So go check that out.
It is frightening. Dr. Kenneth McFarland. Put that on your to-do list, your homework. We will see you tomorrow for the Tuesday edition. Beth Maggioroni is going to be on challenging Ben Watson in the primary, and you will get her remarks tomorrow as well.
Yes, and don't forget to go to our website, thelocalspin.com, and support us. You can become a member. You can subscribe. You can also become an advertiser. So make sure that we get your support so we can stay on the air.
And some big things going on at the Mighty 8th Air Force today. Museum, and we'll tell you more about that tomorrow.